Hello there, Internet people. It's your good buddy Rue, here to do what I love to do almost as much as I love to do some other things, and that's talk about comic books. Hooray! Comic books! So let's get started. XFactor number 210. Here we go. Honestly, this was a really nice, rest, whatever, from a rather boring storyline dealing with, Hela and the other Norse gods over in Las Vegas. Maybe if I wasn't also reading Thor and Avengers Prime and blah de blah de blah, where I'm just so entrenched in a lot of this North Pantheon stuff that XFactor and again Thor and Avengers Prime all seem to be telling different stories that all happened at the same place. I'd care more, but I really don't. But to 210, again, a nice like midway, take a break point, and we see what's going back on at the headquarters. I've never really liked Richter. I'm of the opinion that Shatterstar can do so much better, and Richter has always been just this whiny little punk who I'd be perfectly happy if someone just walked up and punched him in the neck. But even I feel kind of bad for him, with Rain making him feel like he caused her current condition. Right there. Pregosaurus. I guess, what would you call basically a pregnant werewolf mutant? This will actually be kind of interesting, I guess. But I feel kind of bad for him, and I really can't wait until the issue where he finds out the truth. Moving on. Vertigo Resurrected number 1. I personally love the idea of what they're doing with these. Some banned stories, other stories that were never published for whatever reason, and some of the other ones coming down the pike are going to be limited series. Some of them I've already read, so I'm not going to buy, but some of them I haven't read, and so I'm really looking forward to those Resurrecteds. This one right here, I am not going to go so far as to tell you that this is worth the $8 cover price. Thank you, DCBS, for not making me have to pay $8 for this book. But I will say that very rarely do you have a book like this. Think back to Deadpool 1000 or other comic books where it's multiple stories by multiple artists and multiple creators all doing their own little thing. Very rarely is even most of the book good. This is that one very rare. You have Shoot, the Columbine story that was banned from Hellblazer, New Toys, Nosh, Barry, Eddie, and Joe, Diagnosis, which is honestly worth it just for Tim Sale's art alone, and Resolve. You have five stories of, I want to say maybe 8, that are great. Honestly, I'd be happy to own each of them in single issues. The only real disappointment, in my opinion, of the entire 8 is Bill Willingham's It Takes a Village. It wasn't funny, it wasn't clever, and honestly, his art was just dumb. I really just did not like it. Again, I can't say in good conscience to spend $8 on this, although if you think about what I just said, me saying I'd be willing to own all of these as single issues, it'll probably be more expensive than $8, and that makes no sense, but I'm going to stick with it. But if you can get this for $6, $5 or less, obviously, this is a good read, and I highly recommend it. And if you like me and you're a completist with something, and again, that's me with Hellblazer, then I had to buy this just for Shoot alone, and it was well worth that. But again, I know I'm contradicting myself a lot here. I don't know why I'm doing it, but it's not an $8 comic book. I'm sorry, it just isn't. Speaking of a comic book I just shouldn't have bought at all, Kick-Ass 2 number 1, Balls to the Wall. There, you see it, it's right there, it's gone. I read this, and I tried. I really did. I kept reading it. I'm waiting for me to care again about this comic book, and I just don't. Maybe it's because the movie was so different from the first comic book series, and I read that. I have it all, and then I watched the movie, and I can't really remember which continuity I'm supposed to care about anymore. Or maybe it's just I'm done with Millar. This was... Say what you will about Millar and Nemesis and the other things that he's been doing recently that I honestly just don't like. This was boring. And I've never been bored by a Millar comic. I've been unimpressed. I've been grossed out. I've been just thoroughly... I've hated a book, but I've never been bored by it. And Kick-Ass 2 number 1 was a boring comic book. I can't even say that I'm going to read the trade ever in, I guess, the 3.5 years it's going to take for these 6 to 8 comics to come out. Yeah, I'm not getting issue 2. So if you need someone to tell you how good the entire series was, I'm sure there's other, places you can go for that, because you're not going to get it from me. DMZ number 58. You cannot get any more different between my reaction to this comic and, Kick-Ass 2. This issue right here is why I love this series. this has been a run of standalone comics, and this one deals with somebody we met 2 years ago in a previous run of standalone comics for one comic, decade later. That's the character's name. He's a graffiti artist. And this just tells us what he's been doing in the 2 years we've seen him, and I love things like this. I love it when a creator goes back and reconnects with who we might have thought was just a minor character that was completely unimportant to the story at large, but it's a good way of telling us how much time has passed since that comic book. It's also, in my opinion, a very nice way to reward readers for sticking it out, for reading this in single issues. Because 2 years ago, if I wait for trade, is 2 trades ago. And I might be reading that in one day. And it might not really matter to me that, it's been 2 trades since I've seen this character. But 24 comics since I've seen this character, that matters to me for some reason. I love this. I love what Brian Wood and everybody's been doing with this comic. 2 more issues until the final storyline starts. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Part of me is very sad that this comic will be ending. But a part of me just, this was the plan all along, I hope. And I really can't wait to see what the creators have in store for us, and also Maddie. I'm sad and happy at the same time. Fables number 99. It's very safe to say that 2009 and 2010, starting with right before the Great Fables crossover, hasn't been the best time in Fables' run. Either subpar or barely par stories for maybe about the past 2 years, year and a half. With issue 98 last month, Rose Red waking up and kicking ass, and then issue 99 right here. I'm confident Fables might not be back to where it was, but it's almost there. I'm excited for Fables again, and it's been a long time since I could say that. This one right here, not only does it set up issue 100, the big battle that I'm hoping, or some sort of major resolution to the storyline that's been coming, but it also, right before that, it starts the next storyline, or at least a future one, with the Northwind, Bigby, and Ghost, and what's going to happen with that. I'm excited again, and it's been a while. Like I said, it's been a while since I could say that, but I'm excited for Fables again, and that makes me very, very happy. And finally, this month, Hellblazer 272. This is, and I say this perfectly with no reservations, the 272nd issue of Hellblazer I've read. I've read every single one. I have them all in single issue format. I have a couple trades too that people bought me because they didn't know whatever. I've read them all. And I can say with no trepidation, no reservations at all, that I can only think of 2 times in Hellblazer's history that it's been better than this. And that's Warren Ellis's run. Warren Ellis's run of single issues that was like 5 comics, and they're just phenomenal. And Garth Ennis's run. And I'd even admit, with both of those cases, maybe my emotional connection to those 2 runs, the Ellis stuff, because it was so good, and it was also where I started with Hellblazer, and then I worked my way backwards and forwards. And Garth Ennis's run, which I can't think of anybody who'd argue that was where John Constantine found his voice. That's when the character we know of John Constantine, that's where it's like, okay, this is what this guy's gonna do. Without Ennis, I don't think we'd have the John Constantine we have today. Nobody can argue that. But those 2 runs, the only 2 runs I think might be better than what Milligan's been doing. If you've never read Hellblazer, if for some reason during one of the really crappy runs you stop reading it, go find Scab. It is the first trade of Milligan's run, and just go from there. You can kind of skip India, that storyline. It was okay, but oh my God, read Hellblazer right now, and it's phenomenal. See, I told you, even with only 3 comics, I still can talk for 10 minutes, because I love talking about comic books. One little announcement. I got an advance copy. This is volume 1 of Pinocchio, Vampire Slayer. I got an advance copy of the second volume, which is available in stores on November 9th. You can find my written review of that on my Facebook page, or if you follow me on Twitter, or even at theouthousers.com. And I'll remind you to buy it because it was very good. And I'm also interviewing the creators later tonight, and I'll link to the podcast whether you can download that again on my Facebook and Twitter accounts. Everybody have a good one, and well, here we go. Later, peeps.